Hi, the Green Report here with 6 environmental news stories you may have missed in January 2021. Let's begin. Number 1. 2020 was the second hottest year on record according to NOAA. The beginning of 2021 began with a recap of how 2020 fared in terms of its global average temperature compared to other recent years. According to NOAA, 2020's global average temperature was 0.98 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial averages. It almost tied with 2016 global average temperature at 1 degree Celsius. The last 5 years have been the hottest years ever recorded in human history, and the global average temperature is projected to continue to increase in the coming decades to, at a conservative estimate, 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. But in reality, with feedback loops taken into account, we could see a 7 to 9 degrees Celsius average in 80 years. Number 2. Amazon rainforest will collapse by 2064, new study finds. Quote, the future of the world's largest rainforest looks bleak. A new report for Environment, Science and Policy for Sustainable Development concluded that the rainforest will collapse and largely become a dry, shrubbery plain by 2064. Development, deforestation, and the climate crisis are to blame, study author and University of Florida geologist Robert Tuvey Walker found. Continuing, quote, longer dry seasons, which the rainforest is already experiencing and which are exacerbated by deforestation and the climate crisis, prevent rainforest canopies from recovering from fires. Flammable grasses and shrubs permanently invade and take over the landscape. The tropical rainforest dries out and transforms into a tropical savanna, the study found. Also, a 2020 study predicted the Amazon would turn into a carbon source in the next 15 years, which means that instead of absorbing CO2, the rainforest will emit carbon and further warm the planet. Number 3. Joe Biden rejoins the Paris Climate Agreement. After President Joe Biden was sworn into office, one of the first things he did was have the United States rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, which strives to keep the global average temperature under 2 degrees Celsius. The U.S. will officially rejoin 30 days after January 20th. It should be noted that there needs to be a stronger agreement because the Paris Climate Agreement doesn't go far enough, but it is a start after the Trump administration. Joe Biden also canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, a reversal from the previous administration. He also highlighted 4 rollbacks to be halted, altered, or revoked, which are methane emissions in the oil and gas sector, fuel efficiency standards for cars and light trucks, energy efficiency standards for appliances and buildings, and air pollution controls, including the decision to limit certain scientific studies for setting public health policies. However, Biden's plan isn't 100% green, as, quote, the Biden administration has issued at least 31 new drilling permits authorizing operations on federal land and coastal waters, despite an order putting political appointees in charge of the decisions. The move signals those drilling authorizations can continue to flow despite President Joe Biden's plan to pause oil and gas leasing. Therefore, there are pauses on new drilling, but not a full stoppage of oil and gas production, as companies will continue to receive permits to drill on land they have already leased. Number 4. Joe Biden addresses climate crisis, executive order. Joe Biden on January 27th signed an executive order that officially addresses the climate crisis. The order set out a bold plan to prioritize climate action for both domestic and environmental policy while moving away from fossil fuels, creating jobs, and emphasizing environmental justice. It reads, the executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad endorsed numerous actions, including hosting a leaders' climate summit to boost international climate ambition ahead of the next UN climate change conference of the parties, also determining new national emissions reduction goals per the terms of the Paris Climate Agreement, developing a financial plan to help developing countries act on and adapt to the climate crisis, creating a national climate task force to shape the domestic response across agencies, working to ensure a carbon-free electricity sector by 2035, ensuring all federal vehicles are electric, increasing renewable energy production on federal land and waters with a goal of doubling offshore wind power by 2030, also pausing all oil and gas leases on public lands, ending fossil fuel subsidies, creating a civilian climate corps, crafting a plan to conserve 30% of United States land and water by 2030, tasking fossil fuel workers with plugging methane gas leaks and handling other restoration work, creating a White House Environmental Justice Interagency Council to address the needs of communities that have been disproportionately harmed by pollution, and lastly, mandating that 40% of federal climate investments are directed to marginalized communities. Number 5. Tropical Cyclone Eloise. Tropical Cyclone Eloise formed on January 14th and had winds up to 90 miles per hour and killed 19 people in Mozambique. Tropical Cyclone Eloise deluged Mozambique with heavy rain and hurricane-force winds, displacing nearly 7,000 people and destroying more than 300,000 acres of crops. Mozambique officials also estimated the storm completely destroyed over 1,000 homes and partially destroyed or flooded another 4,800. Experts state that, quote, the population is still recovering from Cyclone Idai, which hit the same region in March 2019, displacing tens of thousands of families and caused widespread food insecurity and higher rates of child malnutrition. Number 6. Atmospheric river hits California. After a historic wildfire season, California was hit with heavy amounts of rain in late January that caused evacuations and damage to vulnerable infrastructure. The heavy rains produced by an atmospheric river also caused flooding and knocked out power for thousands in the Bay Area, and the threat of landslides and debris flows remain across California after the state's historic 2020 wildfire season. The atmospheric river hit Central California the hardest as several spots reported 24-hour rainfall records, and the downpour washed out a 150-foot section of Highway 1. Climate scientists warn of more frequent atmospheric river events in the region due to climate change. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Green Report for more monthly recap videos on the environment and the climate crisis.